Before I start this video, I just want to let you all know that I've opened up a Patreon for my YouTube channel. Ad revenue is not a very reliable source of income, so this will serve as a means for fans to more actively support the channel. Thank you. Happy New Year, and welcome to another countdown. You've probably heard it before, and I won't try and stretch it out too much, but yeah, 2020 was a bit of a rough year. We all know that, and honestly, I don't really feel like I need to continue the cycle of saying it over and over again. It wasn't great, you know that, I know that. But even with all the chaos going on, I still was able to play a bunch of great video games throughout the year, and like I do every new year, I'm here to tell you my 10 favorites. If you're new to this topic, I just want to make the clarification that these aren't the best games released in 2020. They're my favorite games that I played for the first time this year, so all sorts of video games are eligible as long as I played them. So, let's jump in. Earlier this year, there was a bizarre online meme that used early deepfake animation technology to create all sorts of popular videos of notable figures saying or singing weird shit. It got pretty big. You saw all sorts of weird memes, especially of Yandere Dev for some reason. Everyone was in on it. Even the president of El Salvador was bumping a video of Hitler and Stalin singing the pop classic "Video Killed the Radio Star." I made a few memes with it as well, and some got pretty freaking big.
Never mind, I'll find someone like you.
But all my success with the meme was dwarfed by the Baka Mitai craze, where some guy took a bunch of pictures and animated them all singing the song from the Yakuza series. It got big, and I think it was definitely connected to the recent uptick in discussion about Yakuza, at least among the circles I frequent, so I decided to give the series a try. I legitimately don't remember when I got Yakuza Kiwami, to be honest. It might have been something I got off Humble Bundle or something a while back, but after playing it, I really am looking forward to playing the other games in the series. It's a fun game where you play as Kiryu, a former Yakuza fresh out of jail after taking the blame for a murder he didn't commit. He comes back to a world he's not adjusted to, and the game essentially follows him as he tries to reconnect with the city and his old friends. And in the process, he has to beat the shit out of a lot of people. Punches, kicks, you name it. People get hurt in this game, and it's fun. It's hard to think about how discourse surrounding the effects of video games has changed. In the past, the potential negative effects of violent video games was a pretty hot issue that a lot of people had opinions on. There were TV spots on it, seminars, you name it. Some folks were really outraged about games like Grand Theft Auto. Over the years though, this debate has for the most part diminished. Occasionally you'll hear people argue about how games make kids more violent, but it's not something I see people as passionate about nowadays. But back in the aughts, man, it was a common point of discussion, and some game companies really hated being criticized for having their games be accused of driving people to violence. I think that's why games like Postal 2 exist. It's a game that essentially exists as a piss take. In this game, you will walk to your job at a game development building and have to defend yourself against angry anti-video game protesters trying to kill you. It's a game where you can leave a donut on the ground, pee on it, and try to get your local police officer to eat it. It's a game where you are paid to slaughter a bunch of diseased cows and also the vegans who are trying to protect them. It's a game where you have to go to confession, but in the process a bunch of Islamic terrorists who all look like Osama bin Laden for some reason attack the church, and you have to fight your way out of it while a bunch of Catholics and Muslims try to kill each other. It's a game that is very funny, but yes, also very offensive. That being said, I couldn't get enough of it and I beat it all in a day. It's pretty buggy and not really all that well put together from a technical standpoint, but honestly that adds to the charm. I definitely recommend it, as long as it's legal in your country, because all the stupid pointless violence did make a few country governments mad. Rareware is a game company that I always wanted to get into. I'd always heard great stuff about Banjo-Kazooie, Conker, and Donkey Kong Country, and I've been slowly getting into that stuff. I played the first two Banjo games in Conker in 2019, and also played the Intelligent Systems Donkey Kong games. But now, I finally dipped my toes into the original SNES Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and damn, I've been missing out. I didn't grow up with this game, but even I was stunned at how good it looks. The sprite work is so great, and I can imagine how mind-blowing it was to people back when it first came out. Look how realistic Donkey Kong is. It's like I'm there myself, riding the rhinoceros dude and crouching into all sorts of jungle wildlife. I'll admit though that I was a bit surprised by how short the game was. I beat it all in like less than 2 hours. I didn't 100% it, but that probably wouldn't be much more time. It's not a big deal though. Given that this game and its 2 sequels were all released within like 2 years, I'm glad that they didn't try and stretch out the games longer than they needed to be. It's a few hours of some of the best 2D platforming you can find on the SNES, with a great difficulty curve and awesome visuals and music, and I thought it was fantastic. Zelda is a series that I've pretty much always had a hard time really loving as much as others. It's probably one of the most beloved series of all time by both gamers and especially critics, but I've never really been able to finish most of the games I've tried. If I've learned anything, it seems like I'm more of a 2D Zelda guy. Maybe it's the faster paced gameplay, or the easier to understand 2D environment, or the more cartoony art styles, but I've always found myself much more easily engaged with 2D Zelda games than 3D Zelda games. And, in 2020, I played the Nintendo Switch remake of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, and wow, it was a pretty great game. When it was first revealed for the Switch back in February of 2019, I remember thinking it was a bit of a dumb idea, but my opinion has certainly changed after playing it. The art style might be a bit simplistic, but honestly, it's a creative way of reimagining the Game Boy graphics of the past. One of the most unique things about Link's Awakening is its setting. Link's Awakening takes place on a remote island that is very different from the Hyrule you're used to. I mean, it literally has Mario enemies. What the hell? It's honestly weird to be playing a game like this in HD 3-dimensional graphics. In comparison to a game like, say, Breath of the Wild, Link's Awakening is a lot less serious in every aspect. The game was originally a side project made by a few Nintendo developers in their spare time, and a lot of ideas that normally wouldn't be put into a Zelda game were thrown in. There's no Zelda, there's no Triforce, nothing like that. Instead, you collect instruments to summon some whale god and leave the island. Or something. I guess I just find the idea of a silly Game Boy game being worked on by just a few people being reimagined in HD almost 30 years later by a massive team to be kind of funny. I remember how big a deal Grand Theft Auto 5 was when it first came out. I was like, 12 when it was released? And without a console to play it on and without parents who would be willing to buy it for me, I didn't exactly get the opportunity to play it, which was probably a good thing. But given that I'm an adult now, and GTA 5 is on Steam, there wasn't much stopping me from actually giving the game a try this year, and holy shit! I was very pleasantly surprised with how much fun the game was. There's something really cathartic about just causing as much havoc as possible in-game, and having the entire police force of Los Santos after you.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm with the LSPD. I believe I'll have to take you in for questioning. We have a warrant for your arrest, ma'am. Ma'am, I'll have to bring you in to the station, ma'am. Ma'am? Ma'am, you're resisting arrest, ma'am? 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 Ma'am, you're resisting arrest, ma'am? 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 I need you to cooperate with me, ma'am? Ma'am?
As a kid, the idea of just running over as many people as possible was just funny as hell to me. And although it's not as hilarious as it used to be for me as an adult, I still found a decent amount of joy in it. But like Postal 2, if the pure catharsis that comes with all the violence in this game was the only good thing about it, I wouldn't be talking about it in this video. I loved the story mode. I've heard mixed opinions on it, often bringing up how unlikable the protagonists really are, but for me personally, it was just so much fun. The game has this hilarious air of bitter cynicism in all its dialogue, and there are just so many moments where I just burst out laughing while watching a cutscene. San Andreas is also just beautiful. Well, as beautiful as an urban desert hellscape can be. There's just so much effort and detail put into this game's world map. You may honestly find yourself taking a break after brutally slaughtering a crowd of people and just appreciating the beautiful views this game provides you. I know I'm like 7 years late saying this, but it's all still true. It's a game that really is just maximalist in its execution. Everything is here, and Rockstar knows it.
What's up? Can a low come up in your crib?
Man, fuck you. I'll see you at work.
Oh, nigga, don't hate me because I'm beautiful, nigga. Maybe if you got rid of that old yee-yee ass haircut you got, you get some bitches on your dick. Oh, better yet, maybe Tanisha will call your dog ass if she ever stop fucking with that brain surgeon, the lawyer she fucking with. Nigga.
Metroid is a series that I had a lot of trouble developing a taste for, especially as a kid. Maybe it's because I'm not that smart, or because its gameplay never appealed to me, or something in between. Even nowadays, I don't feel like I get Metroid to the extent that other people do. I mean, I've played a couple games from the series and had a good time, but I never really fell in love with it like I did other franchises. That's not to say I don't enjoy the franchise. I do, and I played a fantastic game from the series this year, known as Metroid Prime. One of the most immediately noticeable things about Metroid Prime for me was how similar but how different it was from its 2D predecessors. The transition to 3D often changes the way developers think about their games and how they should be designed, and often the primary objectives for the player are completely changed. And this isn't a bad thing. A lot of great games have come out of a franchise being completely reworked, but Metroid Prime, despite its obvious differences in perspective and number of dimensions, feels surprisingly similar to Super Metroid. The feeling of exploration and isolation is largely the same, if not better, and it was surprising to me how much of the process of playing the game was conserved. One of my favorite things about Metroid is its super satisfying progression. It is always awesome to be able to unlock new upgrades that give you new ways to engage with the environment. At the start, you have next to nothing and you see a lot of unscalable walls or large holes you can't cross. But as you get things like the Morph Ball or Grapple Beam, you find yourself able to explore more and more of the world, until you're a total badass who has X-ray vision and immunity to Phazon. Even after almost 20 years, the game still looks and sounds great. The individual parts of the planet all have their own unique atmosphere through the art, music, enemies, and even level design. It's a great time, and I'm glad to have finally played it, especially with the 4th Metroid Prime game that's been in the works for a few years. It was a pretty big deal when Animal Crossing New Horizons hit the shelves last year. Pretty much everyone I knew was getting it day one, and like half of them had never even played an Animal Crossing game before. It was a pretty big deal, and basically everyone bought it. New Horizons took many great steps in the right direction when it came to customization and quality of life. It provided players with the ability to decorate their own town without a lot of the physical and temporal limits that New Leaf forced on them. The old and pretty clunky Public Works project system was essentially removed and replaced with the ability for players to just put furniture outside, and this gives players a whole new world of opportunities to decorate their town. They also added, what the hell? Terraforming? Damn, man, I thought I was playing Animal Crossing, not Minecraft. I'll give credit where credit is due. Animal Crossing New Horizons makes so many previously tedious and obnoxious tasks in the Animal Crossing series so much more streamlined and less frustrating that you almost forget that this game cut the special NPC cast in half and removed Gyroids the cafe and like the entire clothing and furniture catalog. Like, geez, there was a lot of cut content. But even with the removed content, the game has had a pretty good run of DLC, bringing back certain essential mechanics like diving and art collecting, and still has some time left. I also see an official named expansion of the game coming out as a decent possibility, and that could have a lot. So, although I did bring up my problems with the game last year, at the end of the day, I love this series and I love this game, and you can still bet your ass I'm gonna play hundreds of hours of it. Nintendo had admittedly a pretty weak 2020. There weren't many super significant releases, and there were a few moments that reflected on them poorly as a company among the eyes of many consumers. I probably bought like one original game from Nintendo that was released this year, not including any re-releases or remasters. Although the year in terms of new games wasn't that great, Nintendo did shine like a star in one category, and that is in Super Smash Bros. Characters. I mean, Byleth was alright. Min Min was cool, but what the fuck? Minecraft Steve? Steve from Minecraft joined Smash Bros, something I had considered impossible for years. And to wrap it all up, a phenomenal newcomer to the series was introduced at the Game Awards. Actually, it was Sephiroth. Seeing Sephiroth in Smash Bros was not only super exciting for all the doors it opens for possible future newcomers, but it was also really funny to me. Because, coincidentally, I had just finished playing Final Fantasy VII on the Switch like 2 weeks before. And man, it was a good game. A lot of people say that Final Fantasy VII has not aged that well, and honestly, they're right. All the walking and combat you have to do takes forever, especially when compared to the previous games in the series. It wasn't as big a deal when the graphics in this game were revolutionary at its release, but nowadays the dated PS1 graphics aren't really blowing my mind. I'm honestly really glad that this port includes the option to speed up animations and walking in the game by 300%, because it makes fights and dungeons a lot more bearable. It basically turns a 50-hour game into a 30-hour game. Looking past the whole discussion of the presentation and how it's aged, it's no mystery why Final Fantasy VII is such a popular game. It's a trendsetter that set a new standard for role-playing games from that point forward. With its huge world, diverse locations, and dramatic moments and cutscenes, Final Fantasy VII worked as a model that so many future games worked off of. It added a whole new dimension to turn-based RPGs. Literally. Guys, I've got a confession to make. So, you know how a few months ago I made a video called My Favorite Games I've Played from Every Year I've Been Alive? Yeah, well, if you don't remember, for 2005 I chose Fire Emblem Path of Radiance as my favorite game of that year. But here's the thing, I lied. I'd never even played Path of Radiance to the end. In fact, a few months earlier, I said that Fire Emblem Three Houses was the best Fire Emblem game since Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, while not even having played Path of Radiance. Why did I do it? I really don't know, honestly. Now, to be fair, in 9th grade I did play part of the game, up until chapter 10 or so, but I never finished it, and I don't even remember enjoying it that much. It was the kind of game that was like the favorite Fire Emblem game among all my peers, or at least the ones I considered true Fire Emblem intellectuals, who scoffed at games like Awakening and Fates. But it didn't really click with me, and I never finished it. Until now! And man, there's really nothing more satisfying than when something everyone loves that you didn't really care much for suddenly clicks and you get why everyone likes it. Because, honestly, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance might be my favorite Fire Emblem game ever. It just does everything right, with awesome maps, gameplay, and especially story. Like, seriously. I usually don't care what's going on in Fire Emblem stories, but Path of Radiance really is an exception to the rule, with its awesome cast and setup. Ike is probably the best written lord, period. I'm so excited to move on to Radiant Dawn. Guys, I have some bad news. It might change the way you look at me, and I recommend sitting down. I want you to know, despite what I'm going to tell you, I'm still a person. I have feelings, and I try my best to be good. I've been keeping this a secret for a while now, and it's time I come out of the closet. I played Persona 4, and I really, really liked it. Yeah, I know, it's really shitty news. Some of you might not want to talk to me anymore. Just know that this is who I am, and I can't change that. Now, yes, I've seen the statistics. Recent studies find that fans of the Persona series are 600% more likely to be annoying as fuck online. Scientists find striking 1-to-1 correlation between enjoyment of the Persona series and likelihood of being a total fucking loser. I just hope you see those as generalizations, and judge me as an individual separate from certain things about me. But, you know, like, what the hell did you expect? It's a JRPG. It's a JRPG that takes place in a contemporary setting. It's like 70 hours. It's a murder mystery. Like, it checks all the boxes to entertain my small monkey brain. It's everything I need. I know Persona is always talked about in these kinds of circles, but it's not a surprise why, given the kind of game it is. It is entertaining to pretty much all RPG fans, because it's like a super hybrid of turn-based massive JRPGs, dating simulators, visual novels, and life simulation games. The year you spend in Inaba is honestly great. You are introduced to a cast of lovable characters, and you get to interact with them as you choose and see them grow and change over time. You work to solve a murder mystery through going into a weird TV world and fighting with weird folklore demons. And it's fun. It's so much fun. So, yeah. Persona 4, the best game I played in 2020. I think it's pretty safe to say that, unsurprisingly, I've become a fan of Persona games, and am looking forward to exploring the series further in the coming years. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you're safe, healthy, and ready to take on 2021. Goodbye.